I thought I was prepared for anything that night. I had rehearsed the moment in my head 100 times. Drop the box, say nothing, leave with whatever dignity I had left. But when the door slowly opened and her mother stood there, wrapped loosely in a thin house robe, eyes tired and surprised, everything inside me unraveled. For a second, the world felt painfully small. The hallway light flickered above her, casting shadows across a face that looked far older than the last time I had seen her. This wasn't the dramatic confrontation I had imagined. It wasn't anger, it wasn't accusation, it was exhaustion, and something else, something fragile. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that sometimes the hardest endings lead to unexpected beginnings, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I had come to return the last pieces of my relationship with Alina. 3 years reduced to a cardboard box, a hoodie she loved to steal, a framed photo from our trip to the mountains, a book she claimed she'd finish but never did, and the silver bracelet I had given her on her birthday. She had ended things 2 weeks earlier with a calmness that felt rehearsed. She said we had grown apart. She said she needed space. She said it wasn't my fault. Those words always sound merciful, but they cut deeper than blame. I hadn't seen her since. Her mother, Samina, stepped aside silently and let me in. The house smelled the same, lavender and old wood polish. The familiarity hit me harder than the heartbreak ever did. I had spent countless evenings here, helping fix broken cabinets, carrying groceries, laughing over tea. This house once felt like a second home. Now it felt like a museum of memories I wasn't allowed to touch. Alina wasn't there. Samina explained in a low, strained voice that Alina had left for another city the day before. A job opportunity, she said. It happened quickly. Too quickly. My chest tightened, but I nodded as if I understood. I had always known Alina was ambitious, always chasing something bigger than our small town. I just didn't realize she would chase it without me. I placed the box on the coffee table, trying not to let my hands shake. That should have been it. That was my cue to leave. But Samina swayed slightly, and I noticed how pale she looked. The robe she wore wasn't inappropriate or scandalous like the title might suggest. It was simply the careless clothing of someone who no longer cared how they appeared. It barely hung on her shoulders, not because she was trying to reveal anything, but because she had grown thinner. Too thin. She thanked me for coming. Then she sat down heavily on the couch, pressing her hand against her temple. I had known her for years, but in that moment, I saw her differently. Not just as my ex's mother, not as the woman who made the best biryani in the neighborhood, not as the cheerful host who always insisted I eat more. I saw a woman who had been holding everything together alone. Her husband had passed away 5 years earlier. I remembered the funeral, the way Alina clung to me as if I were the only solid thing in her collapsing world. Back then, I promised myself I would protect them both. Somewhere along the way, that promise faded into ordinary life. And now, standing in that living room, I realized how fragile everything had always been. Samina admitted she hadn't been feeling well for months. She brushed it off as stress, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Alina, in her rush to start a new life, had convinced herself her mother was fine. I could feel the unspoken truth hanging in the air. She wasn't fine. I should have walked away. I wasn't family anymore. I had no obligation. But leaving felt wrong. Over the next few days, I found myself returning to the house, not out of lingering love for Alina, but because I couldn't ignore the quiet desperation I had seen in her mother's eyes. I drove her to doctor's appointments. I fixed the leaking sink that had been dripping for weeks. I cooked simple meals when she was too tired to stand. Every task felt small, but together they formed something bigger. A purpose. It was strange how heartbreak transformed into responsibility. The pain of losing Alina didn't vanish, but it softened around the edges. Instead of replaying our final conversation in my head, I focused on making sure Samina took her medication on time. Instead of checking my phone for messages that would never come, I learned how to make her favorite soup exactly the way she liked it. One evening, while she rested in her bedroom, I sat alone in the living room and looked at the box I had brought that first night. It was still there, untouched. The bracelet gleamed faintly under the lamp. I realized something then. Closure doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from compassion. Samina eventually confided that she felt abandoned. She didn't blame her daughter, she understood ambition. But understanding didn't erase loneliness. The house echoed at night, she said. Every creak felt louder, every memory felt heavier. I understood that feeling too. Helping her didn't fix my broken heart, but it reshaped it. I began to see that love isn't always romantic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's inconvenient. Sometimes it means showing up even when you no longer belong. Weeks passed. Samina's health slowly improved with proper treatment and regular meals. Color returned to her cheeks. She started wearing brighter clothes again. The robe that once hung loosely on her shoulders was replaced by neatly pressed shawls. The transformation wasn't dramatic, but it was real. One afternoon, she handed me the box I had left behind. She told me Alina had called. She was settling into her new job, meeting new people, building a different life. There was no mention of me. For a moment, the old ache resurfaced, but it didn't control me the way it once had. I opened the box and took out the bracelet. Instead of feeling regret, I felt gratitude. That chapter had shaped me. It had taught me patience, devotion, and now selflessness. Samina looked at me with eyes that carried both apology and appreciation. She told me I had been more than a boyfriend to her daughter, I had been a son to her. Those words settled into my heart in a place that had been empty for weeks. Life doesn't always give you the ending you expect. I came to that house believing it would be my final goodbye. Instead, it became the beginning of something unexpected, a reminder that kindness outlives romance, and that being there for someone in their weakest moment can quietly change you forever. Eventually, I started focusing on myself again. I applied for a new position at work, something I had been too afraid to pursue while clinging to a relationship that felt safe. I began running in the mornings, letting the cold air clear my thoughts. Slowly, I rebuilt my confidence, not as someone's boyfriend, but as my own person. Samina grew stronger too. She joined a small community group, made new friends, and filled the house with laughter again. I didn't visit as often, not because I didn't care, but because she no longer needed rescuing. The night I finally said a real goodbye, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't dramatic. We shared tea at the kitchen table. The air felt peaceful, not tense. She thanked me for staying when it would have been easier to walk away. Driving home, I realized something profound. Sometimes we think closure comes from getting answers, from hearing apologies, from rekindling what was lost. But true closure can come from becoming better than the pain that tried to define you. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment right now to comment and share your thoughts. Tell me if you've ever found strength in an unexpected place. Because here's the truth I learned. Heartbreak doesn't have to harden you. It can deepen you. It can expand your capacity for empathy. It can turn a painful goodbye into an act of quiet courage. Months later, I received a message from Alina. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't romantic. It was simple. She thanked me for helping her mother when she couldn't. She said she heard how much stronger her mom had become. She wished me well. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, and when I finally did, I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. I wished her well too. There was no bitterness left, only acceptance. That night, I stood on my balcony and watched the city lights flicker against the dark sky. The same sky that had witnessed my heartbreak now felt wide and full of possibility. I understood that love doesn't always stay, but the lessons it leaves behind do. Before this story ends, I want to make a special request. Comment the word hope if you believe that even painful endings can lead to beautiful new beginnings. And if this journey moved you, if it reminded you that kindness matters and that staying when it's hard can change lives, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps spread stories that heal. I came to drop off my ex's things, expecting an awkward goodbye. Instead, I walked into a lesson about compassion, resilience, and the quiet strength it takes to care for someone when you don't have to. Sometimes the door you think is closing forever is actually opening you up to who you were meant to become. And that realization changed everything.